Imagine having access to a tribe of mentors, experts in the biggest questions in tech. This is Making Revenue Tick.
We've actually just finished recording the episode. So Matt, for people just joining now, what are they going to learn about in the next 60 minutes?
So you're definitely going to learn about how to build a modern sales org, like a data-driven sales org. You're going to learn about modern SDR trends, team-based prospecting, and then why communities are so important to find your mentors and grow your professional career.
Yeah, I love it. We're also going to talk about how SDR has changed, what the best SDR organizations in the world are doing differently, and how we can show up as leaders to make sure our Ferraris that we're buying are on the kind of roads that mean that they can hit maximum speed and turbocharge them, maybe with a bit of AI to support. So let's roll the VT. Hello and welcome to Making Revenue Tick. I'm Richard Washington. I'm joined by Matt Caloras. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great. Pleasure to be here with you.
How's New York?
Cold. This is like the longest stretch of sub-0 degree temperature that we've had since 1965. I think I saw. It's been brutal.
Fair play.
So no working on the golf game outside.
Well, we were just talking about this, right? You're going to go and hit up Phoenix and try and break that 8 handicap.
There we go. That's going to be it.
Amazing. It's beautiful and sunny in Italy. Not to rub it in, but I definitely need to come out to New York soon. So we'll definitely make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to talk about something right now, which is important to both of us. And when we spoke, we clicked about something, and it was a topic that you mentioned. I was like, oh, that's like this. And it was all about how if we get the best SDRs in the world, the best training, the best product, but then we don't give them the right tools and the right data, it's like taking a Ferrari, a sports car, and putting it on cobbled streets and expecting it to perform. So I wanted to know why is this topic of creating that best environment possible so you can be a very data-driven leader and get high performance out of your SDR organization, a topic that's so close to your heart?
I mean, every company is trying to scale, and they're trying to scale efficiently, and there's always so much pressure on sales. But the sales leaders, RevOps leaders, ask themselves the question, have we enabled the team properly for them to go and do their job? Any good sales organization now, right? We're in 2026, has to be data driven. And if you haven't built out the right formula to figure out what is our ICP, let's be hyper-focused. And obviously this is for a little bit more of a mature company, being very hyper-focused on what companies you're targeting, and then giving your reps, whether it is an SDR, whether it is in the right companies with the right data within those companies, so your messaging, your calls can actually reach the prospects, the right prospects, to build effective pipeline, meaningful pipeline that will result into close won deals. It's all about bookings at the end of the day. And if you're not pointing your reps in the right direction or letting them be efficient with their job, I mean, just right now, you're just lighting money on fire.
Yeah, for sure. Not to age myself too much, because I'm definitely a little bit older than you, but I know it was probably the same when you started in this world of business development and top of funnel. It wasn't like that, right? We were given lists, maybe even just, this is 10 companies we want to go and target, and we had to just go and find everything from nothing. What was it like when you started?
So when I started in sales, I worked in sports business, and I worked for the Knicks, the Rangers. I worked for the New Jersey Devils, and I was selling tickets, suites, and part of your prospecting, selling it to businesses, you'd be Googling companies, you'd be, driving to work, you'd be taking the train or whatever, and you see a billboard, you'd see an ad, you'd take out your phone, as grainy as it would be, and then you take a picture of it and you'd be like, this company's spending money. I'm going to go, then I have to go find their phone number. I'd have to call into the business, maybe not realize who I'm trying to ask for. So things have changed a lot. And then even when I went into the SDR world, like that started, it was just, you're finding your own companies, you're finding your own people in there. There's not much direction nowadays. Like it is just completely changed. You really got to be locked in on the right businesses, the right personas. And, the company's really got to provide you with the tools to figure out how to get in touch with those people from there.
Yeah, for sure. Because you've got this very unique experience in that you have a very strong career within SDR leadership. You've got a seat at the table in revenue organizations, but you're also the chapter head for New York for the SDR leaders of the USA community. Just tell us a bit about that journey that you've been on. So people who don't have the opportunity of already having the pleasure of knowing who you are, give us that like potted history of the journey that you've been on to get to this point in your career today.
What a journey it's been. I mean, I switched from like sports sales to tech sales, and I just realized like I wanted to be in tech. I think everyone's got that aha moment when they're coming from a different industry. Tech's always the future. So I got an SDR gig, and then it was an analytics company in New York, and this is quite interesting. I met my future wife at the time, who was Dutch, and I had to move. So I actually got in with a company called Partnerize because they let me move with the business from New York to Amsterdam at a certain time. So I was first SDR hired and kind of then took over the global SDR team, scaled the whole org globally, which was amazing for my career. That was like the pivotal moment. Large SaaS company, had like 13 reps under me globally. And then just kind of from there, figured out that I needed to learn more. So I figured going to a bigger company, publicly traded, would have been really good for like my knowledge base. And I got on with a company called Workiva. It was hired to like really drive their European market. They're publicly traded American fintech company. And I was like, yeah, this is a great challenge. I have EMEA knowledge because I was running global SDR org at Partnerize. But this has really allowed me to like zero in on just Europe. So great experience. I was right. You go to a bigger company, you get to really learn their tooling, their processes, even like qualification was different. It was more advanced. How you work with your AEs was more advanced. So for me in my career, that was just such a great like knowledge sharing that I like really took in as like a sponge. And then everywhere I go, I just take it with me. I could fast forward. Like I moved back to New York, now work for a company called Forder, running SDR for the Americas. My whole career has been pretty much in enterprise and strategic sales. I'm not the SMB mid-market guru. It's not my knowledge base, but when it comes to large enterprises, like that's my expertise. So Forder was a perfect fit. Here I am. But if we just rewind just a second back to Amsterdam, I met Dave Wilkins. Dave Wilkins is the co-founder of SDR Leaders of USA. He's also the founder of SDR Leaders of EMEA. Did some work with him, helped him on the EMEA side. And then when I moved back to New York, he had the USA chapter, really build it up. And he just came to me. He's like, hey, I want you to run the New York City chapter. It's our largest chapter here in the US. This community has been pretty paramount, not just for me, but for our community members, because it's just like a safe place that SDR leaders could go to, let's just say, get the information, get that they're missing from their current businesses, get the mentorship that they're missing from their current businesses. What are the best practices? If you need hiring, like we have like a Slack thread that just posts all job openings, people that know SDRs that are looking for jobs. But the biggest part of this community is really where SDRs could get like mentorship from outside of their company, because the SDR leaders fall into like this really interesting situation in a business where it's like, do you work with marketing? Do you work with sales? Well, technically it's both. So a lot of companies struggle to figure out like where should an SDR org roll up to, and whether you're rolling up to marketing or you're rolling up to sales, those leaders are probably going to prioritize their marketing team first. They're probably going to prioritize their sales team first. So an SDR manager, an SDR director might not be getting the proper guidance or feedback that they need to, one, grow their career, but be really successful in their job. So this is what this community does. This is why I was very passionate to help Dave out on the EMEA side, and it was a no-brainer to help him run the New York chapter. We do events every couple months. We're working on some more micro events, but it's all about building relationships so people have a place to go to and connect with their peers.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so if anyone's listening to this and you're in the SDR world and you want to join a community, whether it's New York City or whether it's any of the other chapters in the world, then we'll put a link in the show notes so you can join now. I was very privileged to be part of that founding ambassador team with Dave when he had the original idea on a dog walk with Chucky and on with global thing. And when's Funnel 26?
Great question. It's March 5th. It's in Austin. It's going to be an amazing event for second, third line leaders or managers that are looking to get into second line leadership, and they could start that education process. You know, we have some great speakers. The agenda is packed with everything that is relevant for a modern SDR, modern day SDR org, like messaging, how to incorporate AI into your workflow, how to manage your P&L, right? Like that's something that is huge for a second line leader that like a manager is just not going to get access to. So it's coming up soon. Should probably throw a link in there as well to buy your tickets.
Yeah, for sure. That gap around P&L is massive, huge. So I remember I started in 2007 as an SDR, became an SDR manager, ran a big business unit, got to travel around the world. But P&L fluency was massively important as a topic, but hugely undertaught. And so I was speaking to a lady called Andrea Bumstead, who's the amazing VP of customer success over in Toronto. And she said that she's in the Pavilion community, and they hosted as part of the Winning by Design course an event around how to build P&L fluency. And this is for executives. 190 people turned up for that course. So even at the executive level for like VPs of CS and CMOs and CROs, they all came. So to give that access to SDR leaders, I think is a phenomenal gap.
That completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So we both like started in this world of SDR. Back in our day, it was very much like the art of it, right? It was like proper hunting, huge amounts of resourcefulness. It's become much more data driven. When we talk about being data driven, what does that mean to you?
I think it's just the foundation of how not just every company, but let's talk about like a go-to-market org specifically has to operate in 2026. So if you want to like start from the beginning, like you're going to start with your ICP build, right? Let's take a look at your data, right? Let's slice it and dice it. Let's figure out the right companies to target. Then how are we going to take external data to overlay it on our current data to find our TAM, right? And then you're going to look at your whole TAM, and then you're going to start to break that out by territories. And territories are pretty much patches of accounts that you're going to give to your AEs, your SDRs to be successful in their job. So that's like the basis of the foundation, is using your data, using external data to set your reps up for success. And then let's talk about contact data. Let's talk about phone data, emails. Like this is paramount. Now you have to give them the tools to take your messaging that, you know, marketing's working so hard on, sales is working so hard on, product, to get it in front of your prospects, your personas, your buyers. And if you don't have that data on top of the technographic data, the firmographic data, how are you going to drive pipeline? This is for me as like an SDR leader, right? And now you have to look at it in terms of being data driven, and how are you measuring your pipeline? Where are you winning? Where are you losing? Are you A/B testing things? For me personally, I'm looking at conversion rates across the board. Like we know from with a Forder perspective, if an SDR is driving like a stage 3 pipeline deal, our win rate skyrockets, right? We could get it like up to 30%. So we obsess over that specific conversion rate. And how do we get there, right? Which channel is driving us the highest conversion, right? This is specifically from an SDR. Is it phone? Is it email? Is it LinkedIn? Is it gifting? Which one performs the best? And then is it what job titles are attached with the most stage 3 opportunities? You know, we see different trends throughout the year. Obviously, people are busy depending on what department they're in. We have a lot of personas, but you really got to understand your data from the very beginning. And that starts with your ICP all the way to closed one. You know, what's your win rate versus competitors? What's your win rate at very specific stages of your opportunity? You got to have a really good RevOps team to support you here.
So a topic that I hear so many people talking about, but I've not heard many people giving very practical examples or what it really looks like, is around intent data and signals. Like, how are you seeing the best SDR organizations using that kind of like market insights to be able to drive the highest quality opportunities for the SDRs?
Yeah, great question. I mean, this is like the biggest trend, right? So it's like cold outbound prospecting to now signal-based prospecting. We're doing this now at Forder. So you want to obviously point your reps in the direction of what accounts are going to convert at the highest rate. And that falls directly into your ICP. But then in your ICP, which accounts are showing that they're in the market right now or that they have a high chance to convert? Yeah, that could be intent data, and everyone knows like the Bumbors, the Baton bases, the 6 Sense. But then you could take it a little further on how are these accounts or how are these contacts interacting with your business at the moment, right? Are they easiest signal out there is, did they go to your website? What pages did they go to? How long did they spend on each page, right? You need to get that in front of your SDR as fast as possible. So they're reaching out with very relevant messaging to that contact or that prospect. You know, another one could be, did they work at a prior customer and they've changed jobs? We got to contact them immediately. And obviously, did they change jobs and they're at a current ICP account? But we've made the switch at Forder. We used to be a primarily cold outbound org, and now we're using technologies like Common Room, Clay, to point our SDRs in the right direction and be way more efficient and smarter with our prospecting to give us a higher chance of driving qualified pipeline. You know, it's cold pipeline when it's ice cold and you got to do a lot of discovery, or let me say education on the business. Your win rate's not going to be high. You know, we see like a net new opportunity to us, meaning like it's our first time opportunity with an account. I mean, you're not going to close it. It's going to take 3, 4, 5 opportunities with that account until you finally see it closed one. So if we could speed that up and point them in directions of accounts maybe that have had opportunities, or they've worked at an account that's been a customer of ours, or we know that they're potentially in a buying cycle or in a research phase, we know then it's a higher chance to close. And it's all about pointing your SDRs in the direction of those types of accounts, those types of prospects.
Yeah, it's a far cry from the world that we grew up in. It's incredible to see how we're using that technology. But it's funny, right? Like prospects love it. I remember like even back in the day before they had that level of tooling and, you know, and the integration across all these different data platforms and then turning that into tech that reps could use. If you contacted someone like 20 minutes after they landed on your website and they were like, I literally have just been on the website. They love you for it because you're so proactive. Whereas if you call someone like 4 or 5 days later, hey, yeah, noticed you're on the website, it's gone, right? They're not even thinking about that anymore.
Top of mind, you know, there's the old saying, speed to lead, right? But let's take out speed to lead and talk about like the right messaging at the right time. Now you know how they're interacting with you, right? So you could then craft your messaging depending how they're interacting with you. Where are they? And then obviously you hit them at that right time with the right messaging. That's fast moving pipeline.
Could you give me an example there? Like, what's a real life example of how you can use what we know about them to tailor their message in a way that delivers a better result?
Ooh, that's a good question. We have a program here at Forder. We call it Friends of Forder. So pretty much it is someone who's worked at a customer account and they move to a new business and they're an irrelevant persona at that new business.
Yeah.
We use a tool called Common Room. Common Room actually flags this for us. So signal goes off, notifies the SDR that, hey, this person just changed jobs, is an irrelevant persona at this business. You own this account, but they also worked at this customer account. And then it could come up with like some AI messaging for you to be like, hey, this is how you use this at this company. We have a hypothesis that you'd be a good fit at your current business. Obviously, we could get into some details on the account by building out an account plan. We'll love to know if this is the right time as you just moved into this role at this business. That's a great signal, a great way to action it. It's definitely one that we lead into at Forder.
It comes back to like that sort of fundamentals of sales, Zig Ziglar, specializing making people feel important. And if someone reaches out to you and goes, hey, you know, we were friends here, you're now there, we'd love to help you when the time is right. It's just, it makes people feel value when that sort of thing happens, right?
I think nowadays, for sure, I feel like back maybe when I was an SDR and you get that data and you're just like, hey, notice that you're on the website. And some people are like, what? What type of dark arts is this right now? But I think it's expected. And if you're not doing it as a business, you're doing a disservice to your pipeline if you're not jumping all over that contact and getting in front of them at the right time. And again, training your reps on how to build the right messaging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the big difference between in my romantic days of being an SDR and now is that they couldn't do a lot of that discovery and investigation and research themselves. They needed salespeople to help to do that, but a lot of that's they want to go and do that for themselves and then speak to sales when they're ready to have that conversation. So the world's changed, right?
For sure, it's definitely changed.
What's the reality for a lot of businesses? So you're working in a large global business, lots of resources. I know you spent a lot of time working on this ICP planning and how that like works into the overall strategy and segmentation. If you think about the SDR leader community within New York City, for example, the average SDR manager out there today, what's the reality of what they have in terms of the right environment, the right data, the right tools for their SDRs to be successful?
I think the reality is they're all just trying to figure it out and they're not getting the proper guidance they need. You probably have a lot of businesses out there that haven't invested in the right data for SDRs to do their job, and they're just expecting them to hammer the phones, brute force pipeline. But is that convertible pipeline? Are you actually seeing that move through? So it's like, yeah, we're throwing up a ton of meetings out there, but what's happening with those meetings? But look, part of the community, we hear it all the time, like, and it's why people join. Everyone's just trying to figure it out. What's the process for moving from cold outbound to signal-based prospecting? How are you guys leveraging data? And if the SDR leader doesn't have a great mentor, or let's just say a great director or a great VP within their org, they're probably going to be a bit lost. Luckily, we have a great leadership team over at Forder. We have a great RevOps team over at Forder. Very lucky to be working with these people, and we come together and we solve our problems. But you're an SDR manager, probably Series A, Series B company that's trying to figure their way out. Maybe they haven't locked in on their ICP. They're telling their team to hammer the phone, send a lot of emails, and they're probably burning some cash.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really, we had Jacob Warwick on the podcast, and he talked about a concept I'd not thought about before, but it's so obvious, which is when things aren't going well, people often go back to what worked before, but it's a different world. So they always go, well, when I was a rep, what we did is we made 200 calls a day, and we didn't get to have our chair until we got a lead. And then we could sit down,
Oh
So
my
we
God.
need the reps to do like 200 calls. That's what we need to do. Why are you reps only making 150 calls? They're lazy. Put them on pips, get them out. But the reality is that we can't just keep going back to what worked before, because the reality of the world has changed. What the role of SDR has changed. Like, talk me through what you're thinking about when I'm saying that.
Oh man. So first off, you talked about not getting like a chair until you got a lead. I remember 24, 25-year-old Matt, and we would do standing call hours, and until you booked a meeting, you could not sit down, and you're like hunched over your desk, and your back's starting to hurt, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. But yeah, like I think companies and teams, they really have to start to adapt towards what the modern trends, or realistically what the market is telling them how they need to outbound. So like you nailed it on the head, right? You have a lot of VPs, executives now who know outbound is one way. And we kind of said it earlier, it's hammering the phones. It's that brute force, getting your name out there, hundreds of dials, hundreds of emails. And that doesn't work right now. It just doesn't. You have to train your reps to have very specific superpowers. One is research. They really have to know how to build account plans and understand the details to look for within an account that's going to be relatable to your messaging. The other thing is building messaging. They have to understand how to create sales messaging that works today, not sales messaging that worked 10 years ago. And for me, this is a big one, is if they get someone on the phone, they really have to know how to convert it. Very specifically in the US, I know a lot of SDR leaders go through the same problem. Like our connect to call rates nowadays are really bad in the United States. There's a ton of spam calls. So when you get someone on the phone, you gotta really try your best to convert it. Not the issue in Europe. Obviously, there's no spam calls over there. So if someone's calling your phone, it's probably important, or it could just be, another SDR. But those are like really three big things that you have to train your SDRs on nowadays.
Yes.
Three big superpowers.
It's even come through now that into the UK. So I will have like, this is spam detected if someone's trying to call me, for sure. Yeah. So it's even made its way through to Europe. That adage is not ringing true anymore.
It's pretty crazy. Now you got the iPhone update where it's got like the call screener. So I've turned it on my phone because I'm like trying to see what the best SDRs are doing to get my attention.
Nice.
Haven't really seen anything that's worked yet, but I know my team goes through this every day. I hear them on the sales floor and they're saying their names, why they're calling before the prospect picks up.
I have to ask you this very tactful question quickly. Maybe this will turn into a nice clip. What's your view of sales leaders who don't take cold calls?
Pretty hypocritical, I have to say, right? Yeah, let's say you have that VP of sales who's going to their team, right? Old school mentality, like, oh, you got to make 100 calls a day, right? And that's what they're telling their team to drive pipeline. But then they get an SDR on the phone who's wants to chat about a business problem that they've noticed at XYZ company. Come on, man. SDRs call me all the time. I actually had one yesterday. Was on the phone with him for like 15 minutes, just letting him do his thing. Just go on.
I think it's the best thing we could possibly ever do, because they're all just typically young people trying to learn their craft, and it's hard not to want to try and help them and give them a bit of feedback. But the very best ones, I always just try and convert into candidates. It always happens all the time.
It's such a good point. Like as an SDR leader, like we're always trying to look for candidates, build out a bench if we're not hiring right now. And if there's good ones, like I'm going to remember you, I'm going to star you. Or if you're that good, I'm going to try to steal what you just did on a call and bring it to my team. Be like, hey, you got to listen to this. This was really good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's talk about alignment. So I know you've gone through this whole process around your TAM on your ICP, your territories, and then how that turns into the relationship that you build between your SDRs and their salespeople, because we know that that's such a fundamental gap. The worst case scenario is SDR reports to marketing, sales is like this distant thing, and we don't even get feedback on the meetings that we send, and it's just a soulless place to be. Like, what are you seeing in terms of the best practice that exists in the market today around the way that leaders are creating alignment between SDRs and sales teams?
Yeah, so I'm very passionate about creating a pod structure, very specifically in the enterprise strat world, because what we're trying to do is promote team-based prospecting. Team-based prospecting for me, is that thing that could really move the needle within an account. You have an AE, they own the account. You have the SDR, who's going to do a lot of the calls, they're going to do a lot of the emails, LinkedIn work, map out the key the stakeholders, help them with that account plan. It's two people coming together and creating a plan on the best way to penetrate that account and book not just one, let's book multiple meetings in there. It's something that I've done at multiple companies. It's something that really helps drive effective pipeline within that account. I've actually worked at businesses where we've comped SDRs on how many meetings you could get within an account rather than just like total number of opportunities, ACV pipeline or bookings. Because, if you go and you look at your data, and this is back to being like a data-driven org, we realized that if we could get like 5 meetings within an account with relevant personas, we knew our win rate skyrocketed. So why not tell an SDR to go into an account and book these 3 to 5 people? So we have a better chance to win the opportunity, but that's going to start with the relationship of the A and the SDR sitting down every week, building out an account plan, building out the mapping of the stakeholders, what could be the hooks for each specific persona. And then they stay in constant communication. Like the best pairings that, I'll say right now that we have Forder, the A's and the SDRs are in lockstep. Like they're in constant communication, always over Slack. They have their weekly meetings and they know exactly what they're working on. It's really something that can move the needle when you're targeting large enterprise and strategic accounts. It's that team-based prospecting. And it's not just A's and SDRs, like bring in BD, bring in customer success if it's a customer account. Like how can you as a full go-to-market or come together and create processes that's going to allow you to, again, drive meaningful pipeline.
Yeah. I love it. I know that if I asked anyone who's an expert such a generic question as what tooling would you recommend for SDR organizations, you probably would say it depends. So maybe I'll give you a scenario. Let's say that I'm a Series B business, 10 million ARR, mid-market to lower enterprise sales motion. Yeah, typically like let's say maybe 100 to 250K ARR. Within, let's say, DevOps. What tooling would you want your SDR team to have to give them the best possible chance, if they're a Ferrari, of being able to hit that maximum speed?
What a great question. So I think let's just start with you've painted the picture of like this company knows what they're doing, but I want to make sure that they have the best data possible. And that's going to start with something that could fill out technographic, firmographic data. Do we truly understand the businesses that we're targeting? And then absolute non-negotiable is, do we have the right data sources to have phone numbers and emails? Like we have to give our reps the best opportunity to have our emails hit their inboxes, to have a higher connect call percentage. Because if we can't get in touch with them, like you're not going to book meetings, which is the first step in driving pipeline. After that, we have to build process. So I am big on sales engagement tools. We use SalesLoft here at Forder. So, I mean, you could go out, you get any one of those. I'm not going to go out and recommend anyone. I'm not sponsored by them, but you need to have a tool that's going to create a strict structure for your SDR. Consistency is big. We're not going to go out. We're not going to do one-off emails, one-off LinkedIn messages, call someone whenever you think it's right. We have to build an actual structure for them. And then to really supercharge the process is something that's going to give you signals. So we have Common Room here. Again, like, it's a great tool. You go out and find your own. I'm not going to recommend anyone, but how are you going to point your SDRs in the right direction now? I think this is probably the basis of what you need. There's some other tools out there that you could really start to throw on your tech stack. Obviously, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a must. I don't think I should have to mention that. But what if you are an org that you streamline your whole process, right? Account research isn't that necessary, but you've streamlined the full-on data. You've automated the emails, and now it's like, we just want SDRs to make a ton of calls. Yeah, go get a dialer. Go get like some AI dialer or something like that. But this is probably the foundation of what you really need. And it's all about data, right? It's go get Clay, build out your technographic, firmographic data, go buy another data source that will give you better emails and phone numbers to overlay with Clay, and then go get a signal tool, which again is fueled by data. That's it. If you don't have your data in order, you're just not going to succeed.
Lots of painful memories is triggering, where we have such a high effort on bringing in the right salespeople, doing world-class enablement, winning the best accounts so we had the best possible projects to work on, and then data was like, right, can we get 50p a record, and it was all like switchboard data and stuff, and I'm like, you just have reps just like plugging away all day, just trying to find an opportunity to have a conversation with someone. It's just a disaster.
It's that Ferrari analogy that you're using. You've got the top, like, you just went out and you got the top rep from your competitor. This person is great at closing deals, they're great at cold calls, but they can't get in touch with anyone. They can't get meetings because you don't have the data to allow them to do that job. That's it, right? So like, you're not putting the gasoline or the petrol that you would say in the UK in the Ferrari. It's not going to move.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it is the reality, unfortunately, and that's when it becomes a really soulless job. Because if you're an SDR and you've got these big targets to hit, and you've got a salesperson that you want to impress, and you're trying to get promoted in your career, you're getting all this enablement, but you're not actually having any conversations. Like, it doesn't take very long for even the best reps to get burned out and start to doubt themselves. And if that confidence goes, that's really hard to build back up, right?
Yeah, and then you're probably going to lose them quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
It's big waste of money for the business, sets you back, hurts your brand, hurts your reputation. It's not what you want.
Let's talk about enablement. So let's say we could do a whole podcast on recruitment. That would be a fun one maybe for the future. But let's say we're talking about, we've got a new rep in place, and we want to do the very best job of getting that person to be able to confidently go and have conversations, deliver a value proposition, ask the right questions, all that stuff that would mean that interaction with the customer is a really positive experience. What's the best practices you're seeing around how to properly enable reps to get dangerous quick, that some of the top organizations are starting to demonstrate?
It's a good question. I think there's best practices and maybe what we're doing now. So I'm all about team-based enablement. I think people learn better from their peers, the people around them. So whether that's like group cold call sessions, whether that's listening to like the call recordings as a team, doing like the mock calls together with everyone, because everyone's hearing different things on the phones. They all have their different style, but how can like you pick something up to make yourself better? Like, this is great. It's worked in the past, but I think you said something that really resonates, like dangerously quick, right? How can we really improve ramp time? So it is like these AI role play bots. It's something that, we're definitely looking into right now, because I think you could realize, one, time is very valuable. It's very time consuming to consistently be doing these enablement sessions. But if you could give like a rep a tool that they could log in the morning, spend 20 minutes like practicing their pitch, and they could do it like 10, 15 times really quickly, that's really meaningful. And they can ingest your company data, they can ingest your cold calls from Gong or whatever you're using, and this bot could get trained really well. So it's definitely something we're looking at. I think if you're a cold call heavy team, I think that's something that is like now moving towards the future of like, how are you enabling their reps? I heard a really good analogy, not really analogy, it's like a story from a sales leader probably about 2 months ago. And he's like, put yourself back in the time you were a rep, and like maybe you just had a bad day, you didn't get much sleep, and you walk into the office where it was just raining a lot and you're a bit frazzled, and your manager's telling you, all right, guys, like 9:30, time to go make $30. You're not in the right headspace for it. You're just not there. But what if you could practice really quickly with like an AI bot that's just mimicking your prospects, and you do it for 10, 15 minutes, and you're like, all right, I'm ready. I'm good to go. I know I got this. And I was like, yeah, like I've been there before. Like I've sat on train delays going into the office, and I'm walking in, I'm all mad, or it's in the middle of the summer in New York and I'm walking in and I'm sweating, right? The last thing I want to do is hop on a call with a prospect. But yeah, let's do some AI role plays.
Yeah, for sure. We've actually got Shri from Hyperbound coming on the podcast really soon, and they're doing some really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. I'm sure there's other companies doing similar things as well, but I love that world because it's the just-in-time training. Like you say, you can prepare a rep. You could do, I don't know, 2 weeks, 4 weeks of enablement with a new rep to go through all the scenarios and the personas and the different products, so they really like know what to say when it comes up. But then if they haven't been practicing that specific scenario regularly, when it happens, they're not prepared. And it's like a sports team. They don't just like go from the changing room through the tunnel and then start playing the match. They come out and warm up, and they're doing basic stuff like practicing their drills, practicing their passing, whatever that is. They're practicing because it's muscle memory. And I think that a lot of what we forget in sales is once we've enabled someone or they've got that, and I'm like, no, you look at the top like football teams in the world, Barcelona are doing passing every single day. The most basic thing most basic thing in football, but we don't really do that in sales. We just kind of think, well, it's set and forget. And it's like, no, this is like muscle memory and fluency and autonomous behavior.
It's so true. It like you really need to work on that craft every day. But then if you go back to your question of like, what's the reality of an SDR manager now? They don't have time to do it every day with every individual rep. Specifically, you see SDR managers, some of them could have like 10 SDRs on their team reporting up to them. How are you supposed to do that every day with every rep? It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly that. And it is, and managers will spend all their time either on brand new reps or under target reps. And so even the top reps get left alone, and we just assume all they're going to get on with it. But if they can be self-enabling with like an AI tool just in time because they've got a really important call coming up. For me, that's the gold standard. It's one of the best use cases of AI.
I feel like you kind of teed it up for your upcoming podcast with Hyperbound.
Well, there you go, right? Yeah, it's going to be fun, right? It's going to be fun. Exactly. Let's talk about some scenarios then. So let's say that we're talking about early stage companies. I would imagine a lot of the leaders you've got in the New York chapter are earlier stage companies. There's so much growth. We've got so many clients in New York at Series A, Series B. What are some of the things that Series A and Series B companies are prioritizing to get top of funnel and SDR right so they're ready to scale?
I mean, I think it's the kind of the theme of this podcast, right? Like you're now Series A, you're Series B, you're definitely away from any founder-led sales or anything like that. You probably have a head of sales in place. Maybe even you have a VP. It's becoming data-driven, investing in data, to make sure that everyone has the proper tools to target the right businesses and get in contact. But then now it's that head of sales, VPs of sales job to create a very strict and structured sales process. So you could actually measure what's working, what's not working, and then you could start to tinker from there. I think for me, those are like the two things. Now you got some money, great job. But if you want to scale, because now you have the pressure of scaling, right? You finally got some VC money. You got to put in a strict process that's going to allow you to scale, and that's going to be fueled by data.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very simple when you think about it, but you got to go execute.
Yeah, I love it. And I think it's the top priority of every Series A and Series B businesses pipeline. It's what no one under 30 million ARR has enough of. No one. And you constantly have to be feeding the machine. You can't go, oh, I got enough pipeline now. Let's go and focus on closing. It's a constant thing you've got to go and build.
Oh, it's constant.
You've never got enough. So I think it's massively under prioritized in my experience. Is a lot of these companies will go and hire and ask me to help hire some top enterprise reps, get the best from our competitors, go and find people that are just absolutely elite, who maybe come with a black book and a Rolodex, and they can get us really quick wins. The reality is that's not really going to translate into fast revenue, or certainly not sustained opportunity generation. And you want them closing business and meeting customers. They can't be doing the daily grind. So if you can get absolutely brilliant SDRs who are constantly building opportunity, constantly converting marketing effort into sales readiness, your sales people can be like airplanes in the air. And our sales people are only making money when they're speaking to customers. So we have to get our planes in the air constantly. I think a lot of time they go, right, we've got 3 enterprise reps now. Now let's go and get an SDR, and expect that this brand new SDR from Ramp's going to go and fill 3 salespeople with enough opportunities to go and have 3 times product coverage.
No, that's a tough alignment number, right? How many meetings does that one SDR have to book? Specifically, if you're an org that you're flying your AEs around, they don't have enough time in their day to be doing the grind themselves and building pipeline. Or it's like, do you have a great marketing engine? Are you guys creating demand in the market?
Yeah,
that's another thing. So one SDR is probably not going to move the needle in that situation. Not gonna lie. But so you do have to get your alignment right. But I think that's gonna, a lot of it's gonna tell you the SDR success is gonna be dependent on, are you driving demand, and are the AEs able to book meetings themselves before they come in? There's a time to really invest in SDRs, fueling that outbound. And I think that really should come after, are you creating demand? Is the market telling you that they're interested in your product? And are the AEs themselves figuring out how to book meetings while managing full sales cycles? Great. If you do that, then let's invest in some SDRs whose full-time job is to fill the AEs calendars and work with their AEs to think strategically about their account patches. But I'd say it comes after a certain step. The business has to just be a little bit more mature to know outbound is going to work, rather than forcing it.
Yeah, interesting. There's something I haven't reconciled in my mind. I've got 2 conflicting views. I'm going to give you them both, and then you can tell me which you have a steer towards. So 2 people I really respect: Brent Holloway, who was the VP of sales at Talend. He grew them from 3 to 70 million ARR all the way through to IPO. He said there's this thing in SaaS called the 300K SDR. And it's where you hire these salespeople, don't give them any pipeline, and they basically are spending all their time prospecting, trying to build a book. And he says it's a really ridiculously inefficient way of running a sales team. And then we had Scott McGregor on the podcast, who runs the Outlier Project and Something New LLC. And he said he absolutely thinks SDRs should be paid incredibly high. And he wants his salespeople doing SDR work because it's the hardest job in sales. And he doesn't think it makes sense that you would have quite junior, much lower paid resources doing what he considers to be the hardest job in tech, which is opening up opportunities. Where do you stand on that?
Wow, what a great question. I think there is such a thing as a very high paying SDR. And I think what could get them there is if they are driving bookings. Like I don't know if you're going to pay someone $300K for just creating opportunities, but if they are driving bookings, then yeah, why shouldn't they be paid very highly? Specifically, if let's say they're driving them through like self-source outbound leads, you get your account patch to greenfield, you're not getting marketing inbounds on this patch, and you're driving like net new cold opportunities that go move to bookings. Like, yeah, why not? Like, why shouldn't they should be making tons of money on that? Whether they're, 2 years out of college or they've been in the industry for 10, 15 years, I don't think that matters. I think that what matters is like their attributes, their skill set. Are they curious? Are they hungry? Are they coachable? Do they show up every day with the right mindset? Is it repeatable? I think those things matter more. But like if someone's like, 40 years old and they want to be an SDR because they know how to find, accounts that move to bookings and they make 300K off of it, fine, great. I'll take that person all day. But when I'm looking for SDRs, it's more going to be aligned with like the attributes and the skill set that they currently have. But I do agree that if an SDR is driving bookings, they should be compensated very well.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about bringing people on the journey, because obviously you're a leader, and whilst AI role plays is probably one of my favorite use cases, I believe that just expecting that people are going to go and put themselves into a peak state every day, have the right cadence, have the right collaboration with sales and marketing, and expecting that there isn't going to be this whole massive need for a great human creating the right energy, creating the right culture, creating the right environment for people, I think is a real fallacy that I think a lot of people are over-indexing on. Well, we've got AI now, we can have less managers and more reps, or we can have even less reps and just give people more responsibility. So I'm curious to your take on bringing people with you on the journey. So it is one of the hardest jobs in tech. A lot of salespeople don't want to do prospecting anymore. They will naturally do anything other than actually the hard graft of trying to cold generate opportunities,
or pick up the phone, right? That maybe they'll click send, pick up the phone, right?
Yeah, they'll click send. So what are some of the things that you encourage to bring reps on the journey with you, so that you not only have the right road for these Ferraris to be successful, but you've got reps who are just like chomping at the bit, full of energy and full of motivation to go and be as successful as they can be? How do you bring reps on the journey with you?
Man, you got to get them excited about everything you do, right? Like if, let's say, management is gonna make a change in the business, like we got to get them pumped up about it. We got to get them seeing our vision. That starts with change management, having them understand the why behind everything. Maybe we're not going to go into every detail on what management is thinking and stuff like that, but we gotta get them bought in to what we're trying to do. So like, let's say we are making a decision to like increase cold calls. We gotta get them excited about the possibility of them making more cold calls and telling them why the business is making this decision. Whether it's, hey, we just increased our quality of data in the business. We believe you're going to get more people on the phone, and that's going to lead to more opportunities, and that's going to be more money in your pocket at the end of the day. Why is the business doing this? Well, because we invested in more data. We want to see an uptick in cold calls because we really want to test this data. And you could also go into like, maybe there's a pipeline gap as well. But it's treating them as humans with trust, right? They're not like robots behind a screen just making calls, and giving them some background information and getting them excited about what we're trying to do. I'm also like huge into the culture stuff, like to have fun. Like everyone has my trust until they lose it. Everyone's treated as a person who's got their issues outside of the business. So it's like a very mutual respect. I definitely get a lot of that feedback from my reps, is like they appreciate my management style. It's a bit democratic in how I run things. I want people to have a voice. I want people to feel like they're not being micromanaged and this isn't my team and I'm cracking down with a whip. I want them to have say in stuff, a little bit of skin in the game in how we're operating. I think if an SDR enjoys the business and they enjoy the team and what they're doing, it just becomes fun. And like you've said, this job is hard. And if you're not having fun while you're doing it, good luck. Good luck.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Final thought is you're someone at the leading edge of this part of the market. You're a community leader. What is the future of SDR when there's obviously so much technology coming in all the time and there's all this talk around AI SDRs and la. What's your view on what the future of SDR looks like?
I mean, people do business with people. I think very specifically at the top end of the market, you're not going to fuel them. I don't think AI is going to do the job. I mean, I spend my time in AI all day. So do my SDRs. If people are building like a true outbound engine that's just relying on AI, not at least human checked, I mean, the messaging is just never going to work. Like the amount of editing or prompting that you may have to do to really pinpoint your messaging. So I think, and this is what we're doing at Forder, AI first company. I think we are figuring out how to use AI to supercharge the human process, right? We're not figuring out how AI could do the job of people, replace people, because we know that's not going to work very specifically for our business. You're not going to go call into or let AI reach out to some of the biggest brands in the world and try to book meetings. It's never going to work. You have to have that human touch. You have to have that human thought and strategy. But we have to enable the SDRs on how to use AI to give them a better chance of driving meetings or be more efficient in their process. Or that's on me. That's on my RevOps team to figure out how can AI fit into the process to allow my team to be way more effective and efficient in their jobs. I just don't see AI coming in and replacing the SDR org. Maybe if you're a startup, you're focusing on SMB, maybe the lower end of mid-market, and your sole goal is just to get meetings on the calendar. But other than that, as you scale, can't see that happening. If you go to the top end of the market, I definitely can't see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. What's a final thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with today, Matt, that would like nicely button up this topic?
What is my final thought? That's a great question. I think let's just keep it with the theme. Like if you were a sales leader in today's environment and you haven't invested in the right infrastructure for your business, but you are expecting your reps to perform like Ferraris, man, you gotta look in the mirror real quick. Like that's just not the reality of 2026. You have to have everything locked down and you have to give your reps the best chance to succeed. And again, it starts with data. So if you don't have your data in place, just your expectations have to be lowered. And you also have to look at yourself and saying, I'm not doing the right job for my reps. I'm not doing enough to make them successful.
Yeah, I love it. Matt, you're a legend. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Thanks for your time.
That was fantastic. Thank you.
Good man. Everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this conversation, we've got a newsletter called Growth Magnet on LinkedIn, where we take the best insights from all of these episodes and turn them into bite-sized format for you to enjoy.